Recording in progress.
Hi, good evening. I'd like to welcome you and call to order the May 27th Port Orchard City Council regular meeting. And I would also like to remind us of our guiding principles and the actions we're about to take this evening. Are we raising the bar in all of our actions? Are we honoring the past but not living in the past? Are we building positive connections with our community and outside partners? And is the decision-making process building a diverse, equitable, and inclusive community? So please join and stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. And we have a published agenda. Are there any proposed amendments? Councilmember Trineri has one.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to, for the sake of Tony being in the audience here this evening, I'd like to move business item F to business item A, please, so he doesn't have to sit through the rest of the meeting.
Second.
Right, a motion by Councilmember Trineri, a second by Councilmember Morrissey to move business item F to the top of our agenda and make it business item A. Need to
I would love to have a discussion about it, but I agree.
Fair enough. And Councilmember, we'll get to that in a moment, but, all right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, that amendment has been made to the agenda. Councilmember Diener says he will try to join us a little later. Should we excuse him and then unwind that somehow later? Or should we excuse him maybe at the end of the meeting if he doesn't make it? He's was traveling to a conference and he thought he'd get to his hotel room in time to join the meeting. So I'm looking at our fill-in attorney here and putting her on the spot. And maybe you should introduce yourself. Since,
Schaefer filling in for your beloved attorney, Charlotte. I think we should excuse him for the meeting, and then if he is able to join, we should let him join.
okay. And then, how does that affect his excusal then if he joins us? Then we would rescind it or just, or do we need to take action?
I believe you could move to allow him to join the meeting, or there could be a motion to allow him to join.
Well, okay.
Mr. Mayor,
According to our attendees list, there is a Scott Diener logged on. Okay. Do you think he's an imposter? No. So maybe we might need to promote him into the meeting and not have this discussion.
Yes.
Good catch.
Right, we'll wait a moment and see if that is the
The
real Scott Diener.
Will
or
the real
imposter.
Scott Diener please stand up?
At least show your face on the screen. Councilmember Chang, I don't know that you want your face on the screen.
Oh, God, no.
Maybe Diener's supposed to be there.
Hey, there he is.
We'll quit talking about you now and
I can hear you. All right, we're all good to go. I am.
welcome to the meeting and then
Yep. Mr. Mayor?
would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we delete consent agenda L because Mr. Diener is with us.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rosa Pepe, second by Councilmember Trineri to remove business consent item L, the excusal of Councilmember Diener. And I don't think we need any discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That item has been removed from the consent agenda. Are there any more proposed amendments? From Rosa Pepe?
I think, Councilmember Fenton.
Is there another amendment?
I would like to take off the, for the consent agenda D and put it on business, because I thought that was very interesting, the commute trip reduction. And
Second.
yeah.
Okay, so that is taking consent item D and putting it probably to the bottom of our business items and making it F, yeah, FG, that's right. Okay. All right, council member, I have a motion, I have a second by Councilmember Chang. Councilmember Fenton made the motion. All right, any discussion of that? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the item, consent D is now business item G. Any other proposed amendments? Councilmember Rose Pepe.
Mayor, assuming that all changes are made, then I would say that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay. Everybody at once there. We got a motion by Councilmember Rosa Pepe, second by Councilmember Fenton to approve the agenda as amended. All right, we're to approval of the agenda. Now
We
we're
need
to,
we need approval of that.
oh, that was,
The motion.
oh, I guess we should vote.
Yes, sir.
All right, you should vote.
Yes.
All right, all in favor of approving the consent agenda as amended, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The agenda has been set for this evening. Thanks for catching that, Councilmember. All right, we're to our first citizen comment period, and I think Tony would like to address us. So, Tony, I know you, but could you identify yourself for the record? And you have 3 minutes.
Great. My name is Tony Ives. I'm the Executive Director of Kitsap Community Resources and proud graduate of South Kitsap High School, 1980. I just had to throw that out there, okay? So these things are important right now. So I'm here to address council and the public about changes to South Kitsap and our facility and our personnel and the way we service Kitsap County, South Kitsap residents, especially in the city of Port Orchard. So I handed out a graphic, which I'll put in the digital package tomorrow. I'll send it to you and Noah. So a few years ago, before I was here, there was a contract that KCR was managing. I think it was $20,000. It was rental assistance for city residents, city of Port Orchard residents. And that money never got spent. And there was a reason for that. There was so much money coming into Kitsap County through commerce, through other sources, and we had limited staff and just a lot of things to address at the time. So, also there was a lack of data that we were tracking. So this is really what I wanted to present to council right now. The last year, we wanted to demonstrate how many people actually came into the South Kitsap office asking for specific things. Number one. Number two, we wanted to make sure we can measure not only the data, but measure any changes that are impacts that we have on the community. So this is what my team put together. This data represents only the last quarter, all right? So 516 people came into our Port Orchard, our South Kitsap office. That's over on Jackson and Lund. And honestly, I invite all, we should have a trip to go in there. Most of them were housing related. So 234 of those 516 people were housing related questions. Moreover, how do I get rental assistance? So there's definitely a demand. I just want to highlight something else, the veterans, because it was mentioned that before the agreement that we had with the city of Port Orchard was the rental assistance would only be for veterans and citizens over 65. But we wanted to demonstrate really that there was a wide need for it. So the veterans, I just want to say, we have an agreement with the Veterans Administration out of Seattle, and they spend a day in our office administering to veterans. We run a veterans program through Kitsap County, and so we try to braid services together. So let's say the city of Port Orchard does give us a rental agreement that we could use for the city of Port Orchard residents. After that, it's not just rental assistance. Someone walks into our office and they do an assessment. It's foundational community supports. So we say, what are your other needs? And then we try to braid those services around. So it's not just one, we're leveraging services. So I think that's an important distinction that I want to make. This is a valuable program for us and for the city of Port Orchard. We're happy to be able to administer it. And we know that there is a need here in the community.
Tony, I hate to cut you off.
Yeah,
but-
okay, I'm sorry.
But
Is it 1 minute or 3?
It's 3. It goes fast, though. There is another
Thank you,
bite of the
Mr.
apple
Mayor.
at the end of the meeting if you want it, but.
No, I just
think
wanted
everybody
to
is
present that,
So,
so.
we appreciate the information, and I think everybody is very supportive of the dollars that we're about to distribute to you for you to put to work in the community. So,
Okay,
but we'll get to that in our business items very soon.
Thank you, and I appreciate that, and I'd like to invite you guys out to see the facility as well, all right?
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Accepted.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Anyone else wishing to address the council this evening? Anybody online, use the raise your hand feature and the clerk will bring you into the meeting.
Only one attendee, and they are not raising their hand.
Right, I will then close the first citizen comment period. We have a modified consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? Go ahead, Councilmember Rose Bevy.
Mayor, move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Rosa Pepe, a second by Councilmember Morrissey to approve the consent agenda as it was amended. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda has been approved for this evening. All right, we've got a presentation, the annual impact fee report. Mr. Bond, present away.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. Pursuant to Port Orchard Municipal Code, Section 20.182.130, Sub 5, the school district and my department are to provide an annual report on impact fee account showing the source and amount of monies collected, earned, and received, and the system improvements that were financed in whole or in part by impact fees. Pursuant to interlocal agreement 35-22 between the City of Port Orchard and South Kitsap School District, the district has transmitted its annual report to the city. The district's and city's reports are both included in your packet tonight. And I can speak to the city's report, and perhaps Director Kraka can add on to my remarks. We've broken this into two parts. There is the part that covers our park impact fee accounts. We're showing an end of year 2024 balance of $2.162 million. And we also document the spending that we have, the money that we have spent on parks in the previous years, because the state law for impact fees requires that we spend money within 10 years of receiving it. And so we do accounting to show what money was spent going all the way back to 2012. And we are currently doing a good job of complying with the law that we spend money within the 10-year period. And the funds that we do have in the bank are currently earmarked for the Community Event Center and Downtown Waterfront Plaza projects, as well as I think we're spending some on the Givens Park project. And I may have misspoken there. I believe that the 10-year tracking balance was 2.1 million. I think the total balance is 3.9 million. Is that correct, Director Crocker? Okay. Then moving on to the transportation impact fee report. Again, we document the revenues that have been collected, the projects that have been constructed. There are 6 projects that we've spent money on in 2024, and we are sitting on about $6.8 million, and a good chunk of that is earmarked for our various projects that are planned, including Bethel. I can't remember what other projects you've programmed for those funds, Noah.
Sydney, TIP, Bethel, phase 1.8, 1.9, pretty much any project in our TIP.
So this satisfies our annual reporting requirement, and we just wanted to present this in a public meeting so that the public could read the report, and then we file it away in our record and do it again next year. Thank you.
Pretty self-explanatory. It's just an annual requirement that we present this at one of our council meetings to you and the public, what we've collected and how much we've expended. And if there aren't any questions, we'll move on to our business items. All All right, we'll move on to business item F, which is now our business item A, adoption of an interlocal agreement between Kitsap Community Resource Housing Solutions Center for funding affordable and supportive housing. Mr. Crocker, this is you.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. We briefly heard from Mr. Ives tonight about the Kitsap Community Resources Program. And so this is an agreement to expend some money towards them. So the city desires to engage with KCR through its Housing Solutions Center to administer an affordable housing program for the city, utilizing up to $30,000 of revenue allocated to the city pursuant to Senate House Bill 1406 to assist citizens of Port Orchard with rental assistance. The ILA with KCR provides rental assistance may only be used for citizens within the city of Port Orchard with a maximum of $2,000 per household, but an overall contract total of $30,000. With that, staff would recommend that the mayor council approve the agreement.
Councilmember Warden?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I move to authorize the mayor to execute an interlocal agreement with Kitsap Community Resources Housing Solutions Center for Affordable and Supportive Housing in accordance with SHB 1406.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Warden, a second by Councilmember Fenton. And Councilmember Chang, I know you have a concern. You sit on KCR's board, and we chatted about that. But since I don't believe you had a conflict, but if you wish to recuse yourself.
I do. I think for appearance of fairness. So I'm going to just read this statement that I got from someone, which is basically, in addition to serving on the council, I am also a board member for Kitsap Community Resources. Therefore, in order to avoid the appearance of impropriety, I will be recusing myself from consideration of this lease. I also recuse myself from any involvement with this lease as a KCR board member. So I'm just following through. And if you can let me know when to get back, or just text me.
Jay will come get you in about,
I'll come get you.
in about 30 seconds.
I promise.
Councilmember Morrissey, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hey, the Finance Committee saw this
Last week.
Was it last week? I was trying to remember. Holiday weekend still, I guess it would have had been last week because we weren't here yesterday. So we recommended moving forward. We checked in. This is a reimbursement, so no issues. All systems go here.
The reimbursement means they submit the receipts.
Yeah, they're going to send us to us, and then
make sure
we
everything
make sure
meets-
everything's good to go. So,
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because these are what are referred to, this House Bill 1406, and they are required to be spent within the city of Port Orchard. So they're going to help folks out, provide us documentation, we'll verify that documentation, and then reimburse them for those expenses. All right, and, you know, do good work with this, we've got more. So we'd love to help you some more.
We're here to serve.
All right.
So are you.
Yep, so wonderful. Any other comments or questions?
You bring up something very interesting. Tony does too, and that is the fact is that if we tried to do some of this on our own, we wouldn't be able, you know, by the time we finished administering it, hiring, we wouldn't be able to, you know, have 5 cents left in the pocket. So this is one of those win-wins, both for the community, the city, and the project. So thank you very much, Tony.
All right, you'll be voting on the adoption of an interlocal agreement with Kitsap Community Resources Housing Solutions Center for funding for affordable and supportive housing services. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Congratulations, Tony. Thank you. All right. Yep, all right. And we will move on to our rest of our business items. The former item A, which is now item B, adoption of a resolution authorizing an amendment to contract number 038-15, an interlocal agreement for urban community development program funds for the Kitsap County Urban County Requalification, known as CDBG and Home Program. Mr. Bond?
Yes. Congress of the United States of America enacted the National Affordable Housing Act, Home Investments in Affordable Housing Program, as promulgated by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, allowing for units of general local government to enter into mutual cooperation agreements to form a consortium for the purpose of obtaining funding as a participating jurisdiction under the Home Investment Partnership Program. Consistent with that authority, in 2015, Kitsap County and the cities of Port Orchard, Bainbridge Island, and Paulsbo executed an interlocal agreement to jointly access funds through the Community Development Block Grant Program and the Home Investment Partnership Program. Since 2015, the parties to the ILA have executed amendments to the ILA to incorporate new statutory and regulatory provisions that HUD requires in the ILA. HUD has recently required new language be added to the ILA in response to changes in applicable laws. This amendment would make the required changes regarding signatory authority and necessary certifications and compliance. The staff recommendation is to approve the amendment to contract 038-15, the interlocal agreement for Urban Community Development Program funds for the Kitsap County Urban County Requalification, CDBG, and Home Program. Thank you.
Councilor.
I move to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an amendment to contract number 038-15, the interlocal agreement for Urban Community Development Program funds.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Trenary, a second by Councilmember Rosa Pepe. As Councilmember Rosa Pepe indicated earlier, if we tried to prop these kinds of programs up ourselves, we would eat up all the dollars in administration. We've grown to a size large enough that we could administer these dollars ourselves. It's a couple $100,000 we would collect. We would spend more than half the money just on one staff member. And so by partnering with the county, who has a human services division, us, Bainbridge Island, and Paulsbo all partner with the county, and Bremerton does manage their own funds, but this is a much more efficient way to deploy these dollars, and we're allowed to apply. And matter of fact, the sidewalk improvements on Lippert, a couple years ago, it was funded from this source. So from time to time, where it's appropriate, that we do apply for these dollars and have been successful getting them. So questions or comments? All right, you'll be voting on the adoption of a resolution authorizing an amendment to contract number 038-15, an interlocal agreement with Urban Community Development Program funds with Kitsap County. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes. We're to item B, or excuse, what was B, which is now C, approval of an amendment number 3 to contract number C019-24 with SJC Alliance for Sydney Road non-motorized improvements. This is you, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. The Sydney Road non-motorized improvement project is focused on improving pedestrian and cyclist access. SCJ has been leading the design and engineering work under an existing contract. Amendment number 3 adds $34,694.50 to the contract, bringing the total to just over $317,000 to cover additional engineering support needed due to unexpected site conditions, including a communications duct bank and extra pavement repair. The amendment also extends the project timeline to October 30th, 2025, and includes support during construction. So that is construction support services through the design engineer as the project progresses. Funding is already included in the 25-26 budget from the various city and grant sources. Staff recommends the council authorize the mayor to execute this amendment.
Councilmember Chang.
I move to authorize the mayor to execute amendment number 3 to contract number C1924 with the SCJ Alliance for the Sydney Road non-motorized improvements project.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Chang, a second by Councilmember Rosa Pepe. Just for a reference, last year we did the pedestrian and multimodal improvements in front of the middle school, Cedar Heights. This continues that project from is that Berry Lake Road? Down to the new apartments in front of the grade school. So we'll have bicycle and pedestrian improvements all the way from Tremont down to the apartments, and then in the future when we get that culvert replaced and at Ruby Creek, it'll allow us to continue the improvements all the way down to Sedgwick. So just give you a reference point of where this project's at. Okay, go ahead, County Council Member.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Director Crocker, this one says, I think it looks like we have enough in here, but are we going to need a budget amendment? I know there's plenty in the funds, but do we have excess in the budget, or we're going to require an amendment?
Yeah, so this project, I believe in total, again, this is roughly a $4 million project, so this is just the design piece of it, and we're going out to bid here in late May, so we'll have some construction bids hopefully in June. It's potentially, this whole project might need a budget amendment once we get the construction bids back. But we did have budget authority for the biennial budget for some design, for some construction. So at this time, we do have budget authority to award this contract, and we'll revisit this project once we actually have the construction bids.
Okay. So I'm hearing yes, because we haven't gone out to construction yet, and until we find that out, we won't know what that is. Okay.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
We
Thank
could
you.
be just fine, or we could be talking about it again. Yep. So, Councilmember Warden, go ahead.
Yeah, several of the sites along that area haven't been developed yet. It's still just raw land. How does that work with the frontage improvements that they'd be required to have that we're gonna basically do with this project? Are they still responsible for frontage improvements? Are they still, I mean, even though they're gonna be completed? How's that work?
So this is a multimodal pathway. So my understanding is that as the properties develop, they would have to be considered to do the frontage improvements, which would be off the pathway sidewalks. Is that your understanding?
Well, this one's a little different because this project is part of our impact fee program. So anybody who builds frontage improvements on Sydney would be entitled to an impact fee credit against what they owe if they built the frontage improvements, because this is a citywide improvement. So they're going to pay impact fees and they will not receive a credit because we have built their frontage improvements for them. I think is probably the answer we're looking for.
So they'd receive a credit for it.
They would if they built it.
If they built it, we're building it.
But we're going to build it, so now they wouldn't get that credit.
So we would use their impact fees for a different project.
Yes.
Okay. But they are required, though, to.
It could be other improvements, though, like street lighting or stormwater things.
Yeah, there's several options, but they are required to install sidewalks and whatnot. And those aren't impact fees; those are just part of the development, correct?
Well, the impact fees in this case, when you do a complete street, are part of the impact fee. So we would build the sidewalks, the bike lanes, everything gets built as part of a complete street, and that's what the impact fee is paying for. If it was a street that's not on the impact fee list, yes, they would have to build sidewalks and they would not get a credit for it, and it would be a requirement of the development.
Thank you. I was kind of curious how that was going to work, because a lot of those sites right now are up for commercial, purchase. So I was kind of wondering how that kind of works out.
Remember the discussion at the work study about the different projects on the list, those different lists?
Oh no, I know this is one of them for sure.
Yes, and by having it on the list, those projects where we think we're going to get development and we want to somewhat incent that development, we would, because not all those projects on that list we're not going to be able to have capacity to build all of those things. But by putting some of those projects on the list, we're incenting developers to build sidewalks and make improvements where we want them to happen.
We're going to upgrade the sewer systems, the pipes and whatnot before it's all, it's all in one.
We did it in front of the middle school.
Correct. Yep.
And now we're going to bring them down even farther. Yep, exactly. Other questions? Councilmember Trenary, go ahead.
Mr. Bond, just for clarification, are we going both sides of the street, both east-west sides of Sydney? Or just
Partially. There is a segment on the east side that is not being completed as this project. I think the west side gets full sidewalks, and a portion of the east side near Hovde where the sidewalks will include a crosswalk across the street. At least that's the most recent set of plans that I've seen, but I'm not involved in the design of the project.
I believe you're correct.
And I was thinking that's where the portion that you were asking about future, if that was developed, then that parcel would be.
Yeah, but the on the east side you've got the Little League fields, and so that's unlikely to develop. There's a handful of existing residences in there, but there's probably not a ton of development potential unless the church decides to sell some of their land, in which case we would get frontage improvements in that location.
Coming north from those residential areas, north to the overpass, that's the particular area that I think Eric and I are discussing.
In particular, the most important piece is all along in front of the grade school, we're gonna connect sidewalks there, which is the important part.
Is there gonna be a crosswalk to cross the street?
Down farther, yes.
Down
it'd have to be-
farther? Is there any
yeah.
flashing lights for that?
So,
That's been our standard, is that we've included RRFBs, the rapid rectangular flashing beacons.
Don't they have that in front of the elementary right now, though?
Well, they do, but down where the park complex is, those children cross the street to get to the sidewalks to go through it, so.
it'll look similar to what we did up by the,
Looks
by Cedar
fantastic.
Heights,
Yeah,
which is,
looks-
turned out great.
Great.
All right, any other comments? All right, you'll be voting on the approval of amendment number 3 to contract number C019-24 with SJC Alliance for Sydney Road non-motorized improvements. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Contract amendment has been approved. We're to item C, which, item actually
That's C.
D, which was the former item C, adoption of a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a grant agreement for the Annapolis Creek culvert removal and replacement at Bay Street. Mr. Ryan, this is you.
Thank you. The Annapolis Creek Culvert Removal and Replacement Project is at Bay Street, is at Bay Street, approximately where the old aquarium is. It's aimed at improving fish passage for endangered salmon species. Additionally, this is an aged infrastructure identified as a priority improvement in our stormwater comprehensive plan. The city has been awarded a $425,000 grant from the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office to support this project. The project involves removing and replacing a culvert near Arnold Avenue and Bay Street to restore creek connectivity to Sinclair Inlet. This grant was funded to design phases from 30% to 100% completion. Previously, we'd done a 30% design on this. The total design cost is $500,000 with a required 15% local match of $75,000. Staff recommends council authorize the mayor to execute the grant agreement so the city can move forward with the project.
Height Fenton, go ahead.
Okay, I move to authorize the mayor to execute the grant agreement with the Recreation and Conservation Office for the Annapolis Creek Culvert Removal and Replacement at Bay Street project in the amount of $425,000.
Second?
Motion by Councilmember Fenton, a second by Councilmember Rosa Pepe. And as you can see in the staff report, we funded a 30% design a number of years back with local dollars, and now we've got this grant that's going to take us to 100% design. And once we have that 100% design and know what it's really going to cost to replace, we can pursue grants to then, go to construction and replace this aging piece of infrastructure. So, questions or comments? Go ahead.
Do we know what kind of, is it gonna be a bridge like they've been doing, most likely?
It's likely going to be a concrete box culvert, also considered a bridge.
A bridge.
It's a pretty significant size, and the current condition is it is constructed out of wood. So that portion of Bay Street is over a wood structure.
All right, you'll be voting, no more questions? Okay. You'll be voting on a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a grant agreement for the Annapolis Creek Culvert Removal and Replacement at Bay Street. All in favor? Please say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes. We're to now item E, formerly item D, adoption of a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with SMS Cleaning, Inc. for janitorial services for 5 city facilities. Mr. Ryan, this is you.
Thank you. On May 1st, the city issued a bid request for janitorial services at 5 city-owned facilities. The bid closed on May 15th, and the 5 proposals were received. After evaluation, SMS Cleaning Incorporated was identified as the lowest qualified bidder with a total annual cost of $63,962.36, including tax. SMS brings over 25 years of experience and currently serves with other public sector clients. The proposal includes all labor, materials, and equipment needed to do the job. Staff recommends awarding the contract to SMS Cleaning and based on cost, qualifications, and ability to meet the city's needs. And I also add that the city did do follow-up reference checks, and clients are happy.
Councilmember Warden, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with SMS Cleaning Incorporated for janitorial services in the amount of $63,962.36, inclusive of applicable sales tax.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Warden, a second by Councilmember Rosapepe. And before Mr. Morrissey asks the question, yes, this will require a budget amendment.
That's
We were
one of
having,
them.
severe performance issues with service provider, and it was considerably. This bid was considerably lower than everybody else, and I'm glad that they had good references. But yes, we'll have to when we do our next budget amendment, we'll bring that forward. I think it's about $5,000 or so more.
No, I was just going to say, Mayor, that I appreciated that Dennis told us that they had extensively checked references, because there is a significant difference between their bid and the next bid that would lead you to be concerned. So thank you, Dennis, for following up and letting us know that.
I'd also add, I know that there's a pretty significant jump there in price as well, but when you do that little bit of math, because that was an annual contract, right? Not just yeah. You know, that's $5,330 a month for 5 locations. And this is a pretty big location in and of itself. So $1,000 a month per location seems pretty reasonable to me. So, you know, I thank you for doing the work. I think it is what it is. It's the lowest bid, too.
Mayor and council, Councilmember Diener has his hand raised.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out. Councilmember Diener, go ahead.
So I appreciate the price that we got here. I think that's wonderful. I'm just curious if Dennis has an opinion on why it's, you know, nearly 50% of the next closest bid. Like, I'm just curious about why such a big difference.
I can only speculate. They have close offices. They have an office in Gig Harbor. They have several clients. I've actually had a previous experience with this contractor. So somebody who's worked for me in the past. I didn't know that until we opened bids. They have large police departments on the other side of the bridge in Tacoma, and they have some transit customers. And it's just, I think it's economies of scale. They're set up to do larger quantity inputs, so that maybe their margins are a little bit lower. But they're picking up the clientele.
Sometimes contractors just throw a big number out in hopes of
To see if, yeah.
they can get some work if nobody else.
Right.
So I'm thankful we got the bid that we did.
And Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor, I will also add that the rules with procurement on the MRSC Small Works roster has changed. So now we are required to email it to every single applicant on the roster. So there could be several hundred. So we could be getting bids from the east side of the state.
Thank you.
But Dennis, that's only if they chose to bid. from
Only
the
if they
east
chose
side
the
of
bid,
state.
but people do throw those numbers out there just hoping.
Because you could afford to open a new office and hire a whole bunch of people over here if you got one of those higher numbers potentially. All right, other questions? You'll be voting on the adoption of a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with SMS Cleaning, Inc. for janitorial services for the 5 city facilities. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? The resolution passes. We're to item F, which was formerly item E, approval of amendment number 15 to contract number 066-20 with Rice Fergus Miller for the Community Event Center project. Mr. Bond, this is you.
Yes, in 2020, the city entered into a contract 66-20 for architectural and engineering services with Rice Fergus Miller for the Community Event Center project. The contract has been amended 14 times prior to now to add scope of work and to extend the contract expiration dates. Due to delays related to shoreline approval and federal review, design work was paused until recently. In January, amendment number 14 was approved to extend the contract through June 30th of 2027. Amendment 14 was expedited and did not include additional fees due to the rapidly approaching expiration date. At that time, RFM had requested additional compensation due to the ongoing permitting in project design and escalating wages and costs. Amendment 15 has been prepared to provide RFM with additional compensation due to the 30-month extension of the design contract and to add scope related to making revisions for compatibility with the SR 166 design project, compliance with new federal mandates, and the addition of signage and wall art within the building, completing revisions required through the permitting of shoreline improvements and additional federal environmental review work, and plaza stormwater drainage revisions for compatibility with Bay Street. The total cost for amendment number 15 is $321,095, with $151,162 of that amount being a fee increase associated with the contract extension for the 30-month period. This amendment will take the CEC project to 100% construction documents. Additional amendments may still be required as described in the scope and fee of the proposal as attached to the staff report. Staff recommends approval of amendment number 15 to contract 66-20 as presented. Thank you.
Councilmember Trenary.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move to approve amendment number 15 to contract 066-20 with Rice Fergus Miller in the amount of $321,000 and $321,095 as presented.
Second.
By Councilmember Trenary, a second by Councilmember Rosa Pepe. So this does take us to 100% design, but we have removed from the scope, we don't have a tenant for the ground floor, or it could be a retail space or an office space down there. So we're just taking that to drywall, and we're not putting any floor covering, lighting, and because we don't know how it's going to be used. Also, and I'm pretty sure I've spoken to this previously, what we envisioned for a co-working space, that industry has changed, and it doesn't seem viable as a co-working space because a significant piece of that business industry is leasing out meeting space and rooms. And our agreement with the library, they're going to manage those meeting spaces, so that revenue source isn't available to the entity that would do a co-working space. So it doesn't, so we're not sure what is going to go in that top corner either, and it's a pretty sweet location with a view of the water of the mountains up on the second floor. So we're going to not finish that out as the earlier drawings showed with furniture and everything for a co-working space. We're just going to take that space just to drywall also until we figure out what it is we want to have in that space, and then follow up later with those tenant improvements. So I see Councilmember Diener has his hand raised. Your question, Scott?
Yeah, my question is, I see the amendment provides for a lot of things that we would be required to do no matter what, permitting related, shoreline, federal requirements, stormwater, those kinds of things. But the only thing that I see that's not exactly required is the wall art within the building. And so I was hoping to understand a little bit more about how we're coming to that and what that looks like, and council's level of engagement in that element when the time comes.
So I recall discussing this at a previous city council meeting. We have in the entry, there's an area of the building that is open from the first floor up through the second floor to the roof. And so there's a large wall that extends 2 floors. And the idea there was we were going to do like a kind of a 3-dimensional relief map of Sinclair Inlet that would have some texture and depth to it. It was going to be depicting kind of the topography of our area, and there was support for proceeding with that alternative at that time. It just never got put into one of the contracts, and that's really one of the final steps of design, and so it is being brought forward now to complete that task. If we don't do that particular alternative, we would have to come up with another one, but I believe we presented 3 alternatives at that time.
Yeah, it was
for that
a few years
wall.
back. Remember that 3-dimensional map of I think it's more than Sinclair, and it might be of the waterways of Kitsap County. I don't. It's bigger than Sinclair Inlet, I believe, but it is that you've seen the wooden type maps that the waterways have depth to that, and so it's a 3-dimensional map that goes up 2 stories. So it's rather large, has lighting on it, and gosh, it's been probably 5 years or more since we went through all those alternatives.
Yeah, so I just wanted to. I do remember now that we did talk about it some time ago, so I appreciate that reminder of what it would look like. My next question is it usual is it usual or customary to include art in these kinds of projects as part of the budget?
It's my first community center.
Yeah,
Well-
I mean, some cities require it. They have policies like 1% for the arts. Yeah, I think it's pretty normal to do something like that.
I think we want to have it designed professionally and be part of our bid documents. There we go. Look at that.
Okay, nice.
It is Sinclair Inlet. Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, that's fine. I'd like us to have the same considerations for some of our streets improvements and our roundabouts as well. If we could consider budgeting a set aside for art for some of these other improvements around the city, I think that would be very appreciated by our people.
Other comments?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'm not familiar with that. Well, I wasn't here 5 years ago. So it would be nice to get that map again or show us some of the new design. And then, so are you saying the library's all at the bottom, which I knew that?
Yes.
And then retail is gonna,
No.
where's
so
that retail space?
There's on the closest to 7-Eleven on that corner is a space that could be office or retail. It's zoned for either. And we'll have a tenant of some sort in there. We've also got office space on the ground floor for a customer service counter. There's a potential that the clerk's office, we're going to have an employee over there that is in charge of the event planning, and the clerk's office right now handles special events and all of that. So there's kind of a relationship there, and we're space constrained down in the finance department. It could be an opportunity to move the two employees in the clerk's office and that new employee down to the office space that's there, which has the customer service counter as you walk in the door, and then from that counter you walk into the library space, which is the remainder of the ground floor. The second floor has 2, 3, 4 meeting rooms, 3 small, 1 larger, and then the 2 event spaces. So I think it'd be worthwhile to have a presentation, maybe at a future work study, because 3 of our council members weren't here when all the design and finishes and everything were picked for the community center. So yeah, there'd be some benefit to that. Councilmember Chang?
Yeah, in the event that the wall map doesn't go through, I'd like to throw out the idea of adding a climbing wall. Maybe we can get the library to work on that too.
I don't know that our insurance company would appreciate that.
Let the
I
library
like
do
the
it.
idea though, but.
Whole bunch of beanbags at the bottom.
Nor would our attorney. So, good idea, but I'm not sure that's going to go anywhere. All right, other questions or comments about this contract? All right, you'll be voting on amendment number 15 to contract number 066-20 with Rice Fergus Miller for the Community Event Center project. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Contract amendment has been approved. We are to our new business item G, which is formally consent item D, adoption of a resolution adopting a personnel policy and operating procedures related to commute trip reduction. Ms. Lund?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. The City of Port Orchard is a voluntary employer for the purposes of Washington's commute trip reduction law, which requires large employers to implement programs designed to reduce single occupancy vehicle commutes by their employees. Human Resources recently confirmed that within the Community Development Department, $1,100 is budgeted for each year of the biennium for commute trip reduction purposes. Therefore, staff is proposing an incentive program for employees using those alternative commute modes. Staff anticipates the primary uses of the program will be transit ferry passes, as we do have employees that take the foot ferry across, and some other Kitsap transit ferries, even from the Seattle side, and some interest in the rideshare only reserved parking spaces in the employee parking lot. Kitsap Transit is the designated county-wide administrator of the commute trip reduction program for Kitsap County. As such, they have a program which requires participants to use the alternative commute, walking, biking, ride sharing, ferries, etc., a minimum of 3 times a week. The city's recommendation is that we would just have employees sign up for their program, show us that proof of enrollment to be eligible for the city's incentive program. Therefore, the resolution that is proposed for you tonight would adopt personnel policies and procedure to implement this program, and that is our recommendation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Morrissey?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I move to adopt a resolution amending Personnel Policy 4.10 and creating Operating Procedure 340 related to commute trip reduction incentives for city employees.
Second.
By Councilmember Morrissey, second by Councilmember Rosa Pepe. Parking's a premium out here, and we don't have enough parking for all of our employees, so anything we can do to reduce the number of cars out here is a good thing. So thank you for your work on this, Debbie. So Councilmember Fenton, did you have a question?
Yeah, I think the incentives are great. How many, what's the percentage of the employees here in the city, city limits, or at this building, do that? I was kind of curious about the percentage.
I do not have that number. We did a survey, I believe in 24, but I do not have those results at my fingertips. I apologize for that.
It's a handful.
Yeah, I was just wondering how many, because we have, so many employees, and how many really do this.
The one thing about the survey data is it breaks up each individual work site. As you know, we have properties down on Prospect, things like that, so we'd have to kind of pull that data back together a little bit.
See, yeah. I was just curious about that, how many people really do take advantage of this.
Yeah, there were more people than I thought when I rolled out this policy for employee comment. So I think we have 5 people who will automatically qualify for the transit passes out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, you. I thought you were pointing at Councilmember Warden, and I'm going, no, his hand isn't raised.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Lund, do you know what we spent that $1,100 on last year?
It's not in my budget, Nick or Noah.
Oh, it's not your budget. Okay,
Correct.
sorry.
That's okay.
I think we've had this as a standing item in our budget, and during the pandemic, we transferred the commute reduction program from one employee to the next, and it just sort of hasn't been used for a few years. And so we pointed out that it was still in the budget, and could this happen? And so we started digging into it and found out we do have the money, and let's put it to use.
Well, excellent. Whoever caught that, and good job as a team. Kitsap Credit Union, my former employee, has been part of this program. How many employees do you have to have, and it's a requirement?
100.
100. Okay, so we're just getting to that size now where Kitsap Credit Union's been there for a while, and there's some great perks, and it really does help incentivize. So that's why I was curious. There are others who already do, so I would tell you maybe tap into some of those resources because I think it can help relieve the congestion on our streets. Thank you.
And our parking lots.
I was made aware when I first arrived at the city 6 years ago now, there was a van pool subsidy that I believe some of the money was used for. And a longer term employee than I provided me proof that we used to just offer financial incentives for carpools, right? Because there's nothing to reimburse there other than to financially reward you. So maybe in time we can get to some of those as well.
Yeah, cool.
I'm good.
Okay, well, one of my questions was answered, so I was wondering if 1,100 is enough, and if not, can you increase it? Also, I'm wondering, does telework count towards that? So if someone telecommutes 3 days away, okay, good.
Yeah, so interesting questions, council member. The $1,100, we'll start out. We'll just have to monitor it. I can see commute trip reduction is kind of alternated, is my understanding, between community development, and then HR had a role. We've now split that, where HR will manage the employee aspects of the program. DCD will continue to manage the municipal code section that applies to employers in the city. So maybe the money can ultimately come over to the HR budget. We can keep a little bit closer eye on it, but I'm happy to make budget requests to give employees more benefits. But on the telecommute, that's been a topic of conversation for the last week, and that answer is yes. Compressed work weeks, the 980 kind of schedule, 410s count, as well as telecommute.
Part of how we came to that 3 days is because our policies allow you, if your job allows for it, to telework 2 days a week. So you're using alternative means on the 3 days that you are coming into the office. And then to the financial side of it, it's $1,100 a year. So we've got a biennial budget. So we have budget authority for $2,200. And if we get to mid-year review and everybody wants this and we've spent $2,000, I'm certain we'll ask you for a couple $1,000s more to support the program. So I think Councilmember Warden had his hand raised.
Yeah, I think telecommuting, you're already getting a perk right there in itself. I'm sorry, but like that's kind of an easy way to receive.
But you're not going to get it for that. It's just you can telework. You could.
2 days a
So
week.
the 3 days you were coming into the office,
Sure.
you're not bringing your car, and now we'll incent you for those. You have to those 3 days. So you're never bringing a car to the office, in essence.
Or your body for the most part.
Well,
People would sign up for that.
Two of those days.
2 days, yeah.
You would get a lot of people doing that, so I don't know.
My most complicated employee commute that I'm aware of now, ferries, bikes, teleworks, and occasionally due to night meetings must drive. But there still meets that 3 times a week doing some version of a leave your vehicle at home.
The incentives, I mean, I definitely understand. My day job, right up the hill here, there's van pools from Kingston where groups of people will, commute because it's challenging. I mean, it's to get out and move your car every couple hours. If you don't win the parking lot lotto, that's what it is. I mean, as they call it,
Here too.
But it's very challenging. So I mean, you're definitely. There should be incentives to people like that because it's a sacrifice. You're not just leaving work to go to a doctor appointment or a dentist appointment. There's real sacrifices in carpooling. So I understand that.
Councilmember Rose Pepe?
No, I was just curious, Debbie, obviously strongly support this, seen it when I worked at Pierce Transit and Mason Transit. So I didn't know whether we were partnering to kind of have a trip reduction fare with Kitsap Transit, or whether we've had enough information as we've crossed the 100-person threshold. And flipping before you get to that question for a minute, it was very interesting during the pandemic. Both my daughters actually received stipends for working out of the home to offset the savings in electricity, sewer, and stuff like that. It was surprising how they reimbursed some of the employees, both for the Swedish Hospital and the Seattle Public Library. So
I won't get in the weeds of it. My wife, same thing, like internet, all that jazz, because it's expensive. I agree with you. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, tangent.
No, we do have a benefits fair. We did invite Kitsap Transit last year, 2 years ago, I think. Beth is planning, my HR analyst, Beth, the city's HR analyst, is planning a benefits fair, and we will certainly invite Kitsap Transit as well, and this will be an added benefit. The 100 employee threshold is per work site, and because we have about 30 employees located out in the industrial park, we don't quite meet that threshold yet, so it'll be a while. But it's still, we require large employers here to do it. Why wouldn't we want to model that?
Sure. Thank you.
It'd be tough to get 100 people in this building. Councilmember Morrison.
I'd just like to note for something that was on consent agenda, that had a robust discussion.
All right. Any further questions or comments? You'll be voting on the adoption of a resolution adopting a personal policy and operating procedures related to commute trip reduction. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? The resolution passes. We're done with our business items. Mr. Ryan has a discussion item related to garbage service. So, Mr. Ryan, take it away.
Thank you again. So if everyone does not know, the city is responsible for procuring and managing our own contracted garbage service. The City of Port Orchard's current contract for solid waste services with Waste Management is nearing the end of its final extension. We entered into this contract in 2015, and then we had 5 one-year extensions that were available to the city. In addition to the standard waste collection, Waste Management has provided support to the city through services such as the annual spring cleanup and free sanitation services at various locations throughout the city, including sites owned by external agencies like the county, fire district, library, and West Sound. And I'll discuss a little bit more of that later. As this contract nears its expiration date at the end of June, the city must carefully evaluate its next steps. We have 3 primary options I'd like to review with you tonight. So if you can go to the next slide. Oh, no. Is the slide? I'm sorry, I didn't see the slides.
No, sorry, my laptop is.
That's okay.
It's having fun tonight.
I will just keep going, and we can go back if there's any questions. So the first option is a little bit harder to get there. It would be the request for proposal. The city may consider opening a public solicitation process to identify and contract with a new solid waste service provider. While this approach may allow for competitive pricing and potentially updated service models, it poses several significant challenges to a city of our size. I came from an agency that had its own garbage service, so I'm very familiar with managing the fleet and ordering the equipment. Not every vendor out there is going to have the trucks available to use the compactor trucks. There would be an infrastructure investment. Any new vendor would need to invest in new compactor trucks, estimated at over $2 million for 3 to 4 trucks for a city our size. The lead time to get those built and delivered is 1 to 2 years. It's going to be closer to the 2-year mark. You're also going to need drivers to operate those trucks. Operational startup is, in addition to the trucks, the vendor needs to procure and distribute all the new residential garbage cans and the commercial and recycling cans throughout the city. So right now, Waste Management owns all the cans and dumpsters in the city. Local facility access, the current local transfer station is operated by Waste Management, I believe. Is it the county or is it Waste Management? I believe it's operated by Waste.
The county.
The county. So if that could be a variable there, I wasn't real familiar, that's why I asked that question. So the timing and the transition risk. The time requires for procurement, the setup, the transition poses a risk of service disruption and possible delayed implementation. Due to these logistical and financial hurdles, soliciting a new vendor may not be a practical or cost-effective solution in the near term for a city our size. That was option number 1. Option number 2 is to renegotiate with Waste Management. The city could choose to directly negotiate a new agreement with its existing provider, Waste Management. This approach offers continuity and operational stability with the vendor already familiar with the city's needs and infrastructure. However, rates are expected to increase and all services will be subject to negotiation. Rate increases, the fees are expected to rise and will be based on service levels and the number of customers within Port Orchard. Continuation of existing services, the current service levels can be maintained under a new agreement. No charge city services. This is something that Waste Management has expressed that they have no interest in providing free garbage at those facilities I mentioned earlier, and they have no interest, it could be negotiated, to provide the city cleanup, spring cleanup event for continuation, if included in the contract. While renegotiating can be a time-intensive process, it may result in more tailored service provisions than public solicitation or state-regulated rates. You may note that the exhibit provided later rates may end up being higher than the WUTC pricing, which is the Washington Utilities and Transportation Committee. So that's option number 2. Option number 3 is to adopt the Washington Utility Transportation Committee regulated solid waste rates. The city may opt to allow residential solid waste services to be governed directly under the Washington Utilities Transportation Commission, or the UTC, regulatory framework. This would shift rate setting authority to the UTC, which regulates various utility services across the state, including solid waste. Key considerations for this option include rate stability and transparency. UTC regulated rates are standardized and publicly available, providing transparency to residents. Regulatory oversight. This model places the burden of compliance and rate adjustment on the vendor through the commission, potentially simplifying the city's administration involvement. Reduced local control. Adopting UTC rates means the city would have less flexibility to customize services or negotiate the specific terms to address local priorities. Service scope. The city will lose the ability to influence the inclusion of value-added services, so the community cleanup, the spring cleanup day, our free service that we call for the municipal locations that we previously mentioned. This approach may be suitable for jurisdictions looking to streamline management responsibility but not meet the city's unique operational or community service expectation. I will also note if the city opts to explore the WTC regulated solid waste rates, we would no longer have the requirement. It is codified, but we could waive the, you could change the code where we would waive the compensatory, you must have garbage service. That's probably one of the biggest complaints I get from citizens is that people only live there part-time, and by code and by our old contract, every resident house has to have service.
And be careful with that though.
Yep, that's in the code.
Sudden people opt out of it and then garbage isn't getting picked up.
I'm sorry, did you say that that's on the WCT or that's on waste management?
It's just in our current contract, but it is codified, so it would require a code change to change that.
Code says you need to have garbage service currently. Yeah.
Are we open for conversation?
Are you done, Dennis?
No, I have a little bit more. So those are the three options, and I did want to back up to option number 2. And I would invite legal representation to chime in on this too. We're a very small city of under 20,000. Your king counties, they have the power of negotiation. So I just want you to keep that in mind as you explore the benefits and the analysis that we're going to consider. So I'm gonna jump real quick to just, this is hard to read, I know. This is our current facilities, and I can't zoom in there, but maybe Janine could.
Is this in our packet?
You want to just read the numbers to us?
No, I will send this to everyone. Sorry.
I think, Dennis, I think it'd be more beneficial for this information to be emailed out to the council members.
I absolutely will email. I'll just tell you real quick. Everything in blue is the non-city owned facilities. Everything in white is our facilities that we own, like the Ops Center, City Hall. So it's split. So about $1,400 a month of services go to others other than the city, and the city has we'd anticipate that we would pay about $1,400 generally a month in the white there. So I will definitely email.
I'm sorry, $1,400 a month?
Approximately $1,400 a month is what, if we decided to adopt the WTC rates, we would have an additional cost of about $1,400 a month out of about 2,800 total services we get now.
Our current contract has our municipal facilities baked into what the service that, so our citizens are basically paying for it indirectly because Waste Management isn't doing it for free. It's just baked into what we get at the municipality. And then the blue are facilities that we don't own, like the Gibbons Center and the Fire Station 31. When the agreement was put, we might have not been in the fire district. That was our fire station. And so we've got these long-standing items that we're providing as part of our contract, that we're providing garbage service to these other facilities out there. So I think Councilmember Warden, you first. No? Go ahead.
So I would echo what I believe everyone said, is that our biggest complaint is people that are snowbirds and are gone, and they have to still pay for garbage. Works well for me across the street because sometimes I have more garbage and they're gone, so I'm able to use that. But on a separate note, if any of these options, what would be an increase to our citizens on that by taking that? Do you have any idea?
I've compared and I've looked at, there's no in-kind customer like us. There's cities that have their own garbage service,
Right.
and I tend to see the contracted service, the negotiated contracts seem to have higher rates because they're looking for those other incentives for the municipality. So everything I've seen, but it's a really hard comparison. Some of them, like in King County, they have $200 a ton at the landfill, where I think ours is $130 a ton at the landfill. So it's really hard to distinguish where the savings are. Some agencies have better rates for their citizens and higher rates for their businesses in the commercial. Some agencies, it's the other way around. But the UTC, that's their acronym, sorry, I keep saying the whole thing. It's regulated, so those rates are going to be very transparent and established. And currently, we're very similar to the WC rate because we're in 10-year agreement currently.
Thank you.
Paulsville has its own collection service, but as Dennis, we need to spend about $4 million on equipment, hire staff. We don't have a facility where we could have these trucks and be more trucks for our mechanics. It's just not really a viable option for us, the size of the city we are. I don't know why Paulsville does it, but they always have. So, Councilmember Fenton?
Yeah, and maybe it's on there, because I know you're gonna send that to us. Will we get a breakdown of 1, 2, and 3 and see the money, how the money is?
I don't know what the money is because we haven't negotiated a
I
contract.
think only 3, we could do an analysis on 3, because that's set by we could do an estimation on 3.
Yeah.
To 1 would require us to negotiate a new agreement with Waste Management.
And and that's what they want us to do, is have a new agreement.
Or that would be option, that was option 2. Option 1 is
The county.
putting this all out to bid to, the world to try to get potentially a new service provider. So, Councilmember Warden?
You attend a utility council, correct? Yes. Okay. Where other municipalities in the area that share the same services. So you know, like, what the county's charging residents. I'll be honest, my wife tells me what to deposit in my sharing account every month. That's what I do. I don't know what garbage service is. She complains, so I know it's a lot. But what does the county residents pay compared to us? Is it the same? Or
I don't think they do. We have utility tax.
you don't think they do?
I don't have their information. They're a totally different entity, and so
I'm confident it's less, because I don't believe they have recycling the way we do, or other services like the yard waste. And our service right now runs about $90. That's
Every other month.
Yeah,
it's every 3 months. 3 months. So it's $90. It's $30 a month. At least that's what I'm paying.
That's for garbage and recycle as
recycling,
well?
for about $30 a month. And Dennis believes we would stay about that rate. We're on a 10-year-old agreement if we went with the Utility and Trade Commission.
Yeah, trying to go independent, obviously, that's not realistic. Just like you stated, mechanics alone, they just don't have the capacity for that.
Yeah.
I just think that we should receive ballpark the same services as the county. I mean, when we're high density, it's a much quicker pickup. They're collecting much more, at a quicker rate than the county. So I was kind of curious of where we were in that, so.
And I don't know if the county has a contract or if they're on the UTC rates. I can't tell you the UTC rates is that we are in the Kitsap County tariff, so we would be governed by the same regulation. It would be, if we adopted the UTC rates and if they're using the UTC rates, it's going to be the same.
How about Bremerton? Are they?
Bremerton is currently under a contract from 2019. It does sound like they're going to try to renegotiate their contract. The only information I have about Bremerton is that their contract was 2019 is when they entered into it. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. But we are running out of time. We have till the end of June. I do know if we want to try to negotiate it, they would be willing to extend us an extension up to 4 months. We do threaten to run out of. Service can be interrupted if we run out of contract.
What was the extension again?
If we wanted to try to renegotiate an agreement with Waste Management directly, that they would extend for up to 4 months.
Okay, thank you.
Their current
That's-
agreement, but not if we went out to bid.
Right, understand.
I don't think we have enough time to go out to bid.
Can't we do both? Can't we renegotiate and also do an RFP?
Why not?
I don't have a lot of faith in the RFP process because you would have to get a provider that has the trucks, that has the staffing, and that can provide, I'm guessing, around 5,500 residential units in the city. Is that accurate? Not including apartments. So it's quite the infrastructure that you would have to have. In addition to that, you would have to have like roll-off trucks to pick up dumpsters.
But we put out the RFP and we just don't get any responses, but at least we tried it, right?
Waste Management is willing to extend it if
we don't
enter
put it out for an
negotiations
RFP.
with them.
But
Yeah.
It doesn't
Is
sound like
that
they're
legal?
willing to
Can they
do that
make us not,
extension.
that's not a good negotiation if they don't let us look at competitors. That's not a negotiation, in my opinion. I don't know the legal
I think the
definition.
simplest solution could be just to accept the UCT
UDC?
process. And Councilmember Morrissey, you have thoughts?
Yeah, I just had some quick questions, and maybe I just was diving into this while you were covering it and missed it. Did we see what the impact on the average person in the city of Port Orchard would be? Right, like, and I have a neighbor who has a smaller trash receptacle than I do, so I would assume Waste Management's already charging based off of how much usage, because I can get a lot more in my garbage can than they can, but they also have yard waste and I don't. So there could be factors into that I'm missing here, but I don't feel like I would be able to give you any good guidance one way or another until I know what it meant to the average citizen here in Port Orchard.
I think, Dennis, you're going to need to bring back some analysis on the UTC alternative and what that would.
All I can show you is the UTC analysis because there is no true comparison because I looked at counties that are in other parts of the state and they have Pierce County, Clark County, Skagit County. We all have different tonnage rates at the landfill. So if it's $200, $185, or ours is extremely low at $125 for the state. I can tell you what I've looked at for that entry level residential. Some cities don't have the 20-gallon can. I think ours is, I think the one that I did look at was 35 gallons, and we were lower. And I mean, I saw them as low as $20, and I've seen them as high as like $30 to $40. So.
I'm not trying to make it bigger, harder than it needs to be, but I got to have something to compare against, right? I can't even compare an apple against an orange because all I know is one apple.
So somehow, Dennis, we've got to be able to do some analysis.
Yep. Somewhere, okay. We definitely know that our neighbors, we all use Olympic Transfer Station. Like we all use that. We all pay the same tonnage, right? Correct. I mean, so somewhere in there we need to know what the county, what Bremerton, what we pay. We're all paying the same disposal fees, so we should ballpark know if we're being treated fair. That's it. If we're being treated fair the same as the rest, I want to go status quo because once you break off one time and go with somebody new, go trying to grovel back, you're not going to get a very good deal. So if we can just find out what our neighbors are paying and if we're in that ballpark.
So Dennis, how about this? Can you get a proposal from Waste Management to maintain a negotiated agreement? And remember, that's going to be their first offer, and it's going to be a negotiation.
Yeah.
And then somehow somebody's got to be able to calculate. I know it's going to be a math exercise, the UTC rate and what that would look like. You might need to, finance department.
I can do it. I just.
Public information, though.
I can tell you what Bremerton's paying.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
So bring back some examples. And get a first proposal from Waste Management and what it is what they're thinking, because they're saying they want to remove these ancillary services. They have no interest in doing that anymore, and we wouldn't get that anyway if we went with the UTC. So those things are going away anyhow.
I think you hit the nail on the head that we're going to have less service.
Less free, well.
No,
For the city.
hang on.
For the city.
For the
But
city.
our citizens were, that was baked into what our citizens were paying.
And so I'm going to finish that, is that unfortunately, Dennis, then we do have options in our service that you get. You don't have to have yard waste. You don't have to have recycle.
And that's.
And the other thing is
No, I think you have to have recycle.
recycle, but your can size can be different.
Yes.
So those are all little nuances, that.
But those are individuals, and maybe we should look at our
I think to simplify
bill.
this, we should look at what a standard can and a standard rate and compare it to some of our neighbors.
That'd be fine.
Yeah, and so versus, otherwise this exercise will get.
I'm not debating that, but what I'm saying, Mayor, and the point I'm trying to make is we don't want to lose the standard of service that our citizens have. I think that would be a mistake. On that side of the coin. I know that I would be very unhappy going from a 32, if I was forced to go from a 32 gallon can to a 64 and pay a higher rate.
I don't believe that is what you're proposing.
No,
it's about these.
No,
other
I understand that, but I'm just saying is when we delve down into it and we're looking at that, I want to maintain the same service. And Mr. Crocker is over there having a fun time right now.
No, he's not. He's wishing he didn't come in tonight.
No, I'll provide an analysis, and and I'm not trying to kick the can down the road. These rates, there's about 40 different options that are going to be provided, from dumpster size for commercial to the residential.
I don't think you need to. I think what we're concerned about is the average citizen.
Yeah, the residential.
And what their service is. Okay.
Yes.
That's what the concern is here. So if we can get what we believe our estimation on a UTC rate that it is completely takes this negotiation process out of our hands and out of Waste Management's, and then also get a first offer from Waste Management on if we negotiated directly with them, knowing in both of those scenarios that these ancillary services go away anyway.
Right.
Mayor, Councilmember Diener has his hand raised.
Go ahead, sir.
Sure, I've been waiting patiently for a while.
Sorry.
So under option 3, where it says that we would lose the ability to influence those community-wide services, right? Cleanups and so on. That's not the same as saying we wouldn't have those anymore, just that the city would lose its negotiation of those. Does that mean that the UTC would be able to negotiate on our behalf?
No, we wouldn't. They don't. That isn't part of what UTC does. They set the rates for the garbage. If we wanted to have, we just have to pay for that, and it'd be extremely expensive. I think we'd be better off to have a voucher program and let people go to the dump one day a year or something, or
Okay, so it's not that we would lose the ability; we would not have the ability. So that probably needs to be reworded a little bit.
Yeah, in both opportunities.
Or we'd have to pay through a lot to keep it.
Yeah, and then with respect to an RFP under option 1, I think if Dennis has like a 95+% confidence rate that it would be a fruitless paper exercise, I would say that I'm not in support of him going through that. I understand what he's saying, and I believe what he's saying to be accurate. So, but I guess, Mr. Mayor, that's up to you. And then the last thing I would say is let's ask for the 4-month extension, even if it's to save a little bit of money in the end for our customers in the interim.
I think to get that 4 months extension, we have to start a negotiation with them, which I think we're going to. We're going to ask them for their first offer.
Yeah, okay.
And then if Dennis can come back in a month with some analysis.
If they give us the extension, yes.
Well,
if not, he's going to be here. It's at the end of June.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't, then we need to quickly jump to the UTC model so that we don't have a disruption to our garbage service.
And then, do other cities provide the same kind of community-wide services that we provide?
Which
Like
ones are
spring
you referring
cleanup?
to?
Spring cleanup, yeah, all of that.
I'm
Or
not
are we
familiar.
rather unique in that?
I think we might be unique.
So there used to be some ecology grants, and that funding kind of went away before the pandemic. But there used to be like community block foam, oil cleanup, hazardous waste. It was very common. I've seen them at the county and I've seen them at cities, but those are usually grant funded opportunities.
Well, I think there's probably some correlation out there between dropping these services and then seeing an increase in illegal dumps, dump sites, at road ends and those kinds of things. And it'd be nice to know more about that as well. Maybe our time has come to look at this with a fresh perspective, but with all the information.
Oh, just one more little question. Now, could we change our policy? Are we interested in where people can have an option of taking garbage or not?
I think that's a future discussion. It's at your.
I think that's not a good idea.
I think it's dangerous.
I
Okay.
agree.
I would
raising that
discuss it, but
question.
I don't know that there are four.
I like the thought, right? Like, but I also come from a place where garbage was paid for in your property taxes, right? Like, we paid sewer and garbage through your property taxes in Omaha, Nebraska.
I think that also results in a lot of illegal dumps as well.
That is a concern. But we'd also have a lot more code enforcement probably for people that aren't
Yeah.
taking their
Yeah.
garbage service. So, all right. So Dennis, you have an idea what you're doing?
Yes, sir.
And Noah, you have an idea what you're doing? Oh, sorry. We need a little bit of analysis. All right, let's move on to our agenda here. Council committees. Economic Development and Tourism, I don't know that you met, and your next meeting is scheduled for June 9th, so that's coming up here in a couple of weeks. Utilities, have you met?
No, we have not.
Okay, and I see your next meeting is June 9th. Finance met last Friday. You got a report? Do you remember what you did?
Anything that we didn't cover tonight?
We
Yeah.
talked about the KCR agreement, I remember that. We talked about.
Are you gonna do it then?
No, you were drawing a blank.
I'm not drawing a blank.
All right.
So we've reviewed the sales tax revenue, which was slightly down again, but we're still above budget levels by running about 11% over. REIT revenue is running higher than projected, which is a great thing. We discussed several of the topics we reviewed tonight: Community Event Center Amendment, Annapolis Creek Culvert, KCR agreement, and the ER&R vehicle purchase, which was part of our consent agenda. These are things we all discussed at the Finance Committee meeting. We also discussed the condition of the roof at the library. Current library building is in bad shape, and we're gonna go, because we're gonna be in there for 3-4 more years, we're gonna partner with the library on the repair costs and get that roof redone. I think it's supposed to be sometime in August, July, August, if I'm not mistaken. We discussed the colors of the generators at the Marina Pump Station and here at City Hall. And they're kind of stick out ugly colored yellowish, and we're looking for some options to maybe blend those into the natural landscape a little bit better. We're looking at options and costs associated with doing so. Finally, Noah mentioned the 25-26 budget amendment, where he'll be truing up the expenses versus our budget. Should be done by the end of June. Is that correct, Noah? And our next meeting is June 17th.
All right. And transportation was supposed to meet this evening, but our city engineer had a death in the family, so he's going to be out. So really the most important thing that was probably on the agenda was the transportation impact fees. And if versus waiting for another month for that committee to look at it and then bringing it back, if I could get maybe there's consensus and we didn't get that far. So I see Councilmember Rosa Pepe raise his hand. So I'd just like to get some direction possible.
Okay, we had a very robust discussion at our work study. Since that time, I've gotten educated a little bit better. As you can see with impact fees, they have to be spent within a certain period of time. As you notice that on our tip, we have quite a few projects on the list that we won't be able to get all the way through. We had 3 scenarios for transportation impact fees. I had initially championed the highest fee, but because of the fact that we have a number of projects and that you have to spend the money within a certain period of time, I'm personally inclined to drop back to the middle one, mainly because of what we've seen with inflation eating at some of our cost of projects. I feel that, you know, there's certain folks that would like to see the lowest one, not to price people out, but I still maintain that people coming to our city need to bear the cost of the increases in services that we're providing, and not the people that currently live here. So my take on that would be to go to the middle cost that we came up with on the impact fee. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Councilmember Warden?
Yeah, we continue to talk about affordable housing and the housing costs that we have here, and people not be able to buy a home. I have young children that are college graduates that move back here to live here, and it's expensive, very expensive. I'm not saying they're going out there and buying new builds, but everybody that's run for council or elected positions continues to say affordable housing, but every time that we raise impact fees, it raises the prices of houses. And I get it, they are selling as fast as they're building them, but the housing costs in the peninsula here cost a fortune. So raising impact fees is, I get we have projects and we got to build infrastructure to support people that are moving here, but I'm kind of torn on it, so that's it.
And,
Councilmember Fenton, go ahead.
yeah, I would definitely not pick I wasn't in favor of number 3. And we did get something from Mr. Bond about what Gig Harbor was, Bremerton, and Bainbridge. And so we did get a little comparison, and maybe it was for 2024 comparison, and actually we were right in there with the impact fee. And I'm not, we'll still get impact fee with even new construction, even if we leave it at A instead of B. So, and plus we haven't really had that much time to really go over it. So I would still like more information, but I'm more for, I don't really want to raise a whole bunch either.
So where are you?
I'm more like A, but I want to get more information. I feel like it was just a discussion out there, and then like I say, Mr. Bond gave us some, but we were right in the ballpark. So we didn't really, to me, even had to raise it with the other cities.
Councilmember Trenary, you raised your hand there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, the cost of building has increased dramatically. We all know that. Cost of living has gone up as well. I sympathize with Councilmember Warden. He's right. We all talk at any level of government. We talk about affordable housing, but the fact of the matter is, costs increase. If we stay at level A, we're pretty much flatlined, and we've got projects we still need to complete. And with not an increase in this fee, I don't see how we're going to be able to complete some of these projects. I am not a fan of the highest level at all. I wasn't from the beginning, and I'm still not at this point. I would like to see that data coming back from our consultant, who is going to bring us the current rates and when they were last determined at the municipalities around us. We still haven't seen that come back as of yet, because as Councilmember Fenton says, we are right in the ballpark right now, but we don't know when those rates were negotiated or last negotiated or set at Gig Harbor or Paulsbo. We have no idea. Ours have been on the books for 4 years, and we're looking at doing another 4-year settlement moving forward. So, long story short, I'm leaning towards the level B increase on these. It's not major, but it is enough to help us complete these projects on time. Thank you.
I'm going to mix it up and go to Councilmember Diener online.
Okay, so I think I've given it some thought. I think Mark did a good job kind of illuminating where I'm coming from too. I think that we need to make sure that our impact fees are commensurate with the level of staffing that we have for our projects, because as we all know, we don't have a deep bench and it's getting harder and harder to move projects along. So I'm leaning towards B, but I'm also looking for more information that Mark mentioned that we've asked about as well.
Councilmember Morrison.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, Councilmember Rosapevi was right. Last week we had a very robust discussion around that. I too have changed my tune a little bit, and not, I think, in getting a little education on the process as well. But I also stated my consternation around a C for a lot of what Councilmember Warden said too, the cost of housing here, right? It's like $118,000 to build a house in Kitsap County before you buy a single piece of wood or put a shovel in the ground. That's alarming for me. I can't fix all that, but I can help ease what that does look like. So I think for me, alternative C is out. I would like to say that I would challenge the rest of this council to look at the list of what's on that list. It's not just about this dollar amount. Because even alternative A is a slight increase to what we charge today, but is it what's right for our community? And I know I get up here and I talk a lot about fiscal conservancy and making sure that we're doing the right things, but I mean, you look at the difference of projects in list A, and specifically 212 to 2.28, none of those things are on list A that are on list B, right? Including complete street on Bay Street, our roundabout at the bottom of Bay Street and Port Orchard Boulevard. And then for me, you know, knowing what some of these are and what we're doing, that causes me some consternation, because we're going to raise the road down here, and then I thought we were hoping to develop that roundabout right away, right after there, but we're going to elongate that impact of what's going on there if we don't have all these things on here. And I think the last thing I'm going to add is that if it's not on the list, we can't get a developer to do it as well, right? I see also on that, on B that is not on A, is an Old Clifton Road and Fagley Road roundabout. I just am in tune to that because it's on my way to and from this meeting. So I think, and there's more development to go on out there. So I have some concern over not going with B over A. I think I said C's out. And I'd like to just see a little more information, and or I know we got from Director Bond last week at our study session, these are engineer estimates. How do we get closer to knowing that we're accurate so that
when we design it?
Yeah, I was afraid you were going to say that, but again, I didn't know if there was a something that the state gives us that's a plug and play that says this should cost this. Okay.
City engineers best guess.
I've went on too long, but you know where I stand.
That developer for that roundabout there at Fagley is the school district. They're the only one, the project would be big enough.
So are both those roads us? Because there are certain sections across the street from there that aren't within city limits. So I didn't know, as there's additional development going on in the area that I thought maybe.
McCormick Communities across the street. So.
Well, even further down past Christ the Rock Church, further west they just cleared a bunch of.
That's the city.
That's
that is still further. Okay, for some reason I thought.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no exit. from
West of
McCormick
Christ
West.
the Rock Church.
Yes, there's no exit from McCormick West to Old Clifton west of Christ the Rock, but there is development west of there. The school district is really the only large parcel of land using that intersection, and so, but by putting it on the list, we're saving the school district money if we build it, or we're giving them credit against what they would pay us when they go to build a school.
Okay, and even, I guess that would be the southeast corner of that intersection. I think there's a new yellow sign up there, or semi-new, that wouldn't.
That's the rest of the village.
Okay, so that there's not going to be an entrance that comes right there. Okay, thank you.
So you're vacillating. is what I'm doing. You're in the middle.
I'm an A and a B. I don't know, but I've changed. C is no longer in contention.
All right. Councilmember Chang.
I think one of the drawbacks of being on Coffee with the Council is that anytime I walk into Josephine's, I hear opinions. This last weekend, for example, a couple people were talking to me quite passionately about how they hated the development before the roads were fixed. And I was trying to explain, well, it's sort of a chicken and egg. We get a transportation impact fee for the growth, but we can't really use it to fix an existing road. And one of them just very eloquently told me, I don't care. I want you to fix the road before you have more development. So I think we have to calm down and figure out how do we mitigate the current roads for the existing residents. They are seeing more traffic with the new development. They aren't seeing any improved roads. So how do we fix that? I would like it.
That's a separate conversation.
But in terms of this, it's like, on one hand, maybe we don't even want to have impact fees if we think that it's raising the cost of housing. I mean, would we go from like A to 0? And I would not support that. I think we have to have these impact fees, as unpopular as they are. And I would support at least B. I mean, we have to pay for stuff that we have to do, and we have to raise the money for it. So
you have to keep in mind too, this is supposedly a 6-year plan. And how long have it been, and it takes a long time to bring, look how long it's taking us from imposing the 1/10 on Bethel to start that design, hire the consultants to do the work. It just doesn't happen overnight. And we are finally accumulating some decent size sums of money in that account that are going to enable us to, part of the in all of these plans gives us that a chunk of money for Bay Street. It gives us some dollars that we can use towards the pathway because we know everything's gone up in cost, Bethel, and so on and so forth. But I think we need to be realistic about what we can accomplish in a 5, 7, 10-year period.
You and I were talking, this doesn't have to be set every 6 years. We could revisit it in a year, too. If we go too far one way, we could look at it again. There's some costs associated with that, but I think that's what makes me a little more B as well. I think that development's going to happen, and we got to squeeze it a little bit to get a little more out of what we need, but not too far. So yeah.
So I'm completely gathering the cake isn't baked.
Yeah.
A and a half.
So
Could we go in between A and B?
Well, I was kind of. I think if everybody could look. Yeah, right. If everybody could look at those two, so I'm hearing 3's off the table.
Yep.
So let's look at those lists between A and B, and what's on. Yeah, so maybe we settle somewhere in the middle, and we don't have to decide this tonight. So that's your homework assignment, I guess, to think about that. And it sounds like staff owes us some data related to when we got the data for what our neighbors' fees are, but when was the last time they adjusted their fees?
And I've posed that question. We have a response from Kitsap County. Their fee actually adjusts every March 1st, so they just adjusted it in March, same as we do. I have not heard back from Paulsbo or I believe it's Gig Harbor that we are waiting on.
Okay, so
Okay, that's it. That's interesting. Good.
yes, sir.
Just one comment reminder for council is that, we look and say, we're setting fees for 4 years, we'll revisit, and we go, okay, we can revisit in a year, that is a cost of staff time
And consultant.
And consultants. So we just need to be mindful of that. Again, I reiterate that whatever we decide, I will support, but I do want to be very careful about burdening staff and using, and consultant fees. That's all. Just.
So why don't you guys, to maybe simplify this, look at B and find a project or two that you don't think are as high a priority as others, and maybe email those to Nick and I. I'm not, so, and then if we'll come back with maybe a, I don't know, 1.5.
I was going to suggest I could just throw all of them in a quick survey and just have everybody pick their top 3 and then just see
That'd be great.
which projects are kind of the highest priority and then see if we can meet in
Okay,
the middle.
so you're gonna do some sort of a poll?
Yeah.
Okay, out to the
I'll
council.
send a poll out
Thank you.
tomorrow.
There we go. I was just, because the meeting got canceled and you guys directed transportation to tackle this, I just didn't want to see this stalled. We need to get this work product completed. So thank you for the,
And it's not
I know
easy.
we're in committee reports and we took a turn, so.
Well, I would like to just, if I could go off on a tangent for a second, Mayor.
Why not?
Interesting discussion several weeks ago when I attended the Habitat for Humanity. They had a kind of an open house forum event. And in talking to them, when you talk about affordable housing, their biggest cost for housing isn't the $108,000. It's land cost, which we really don't have an impact on. And that's what's driving a lot of whether they can build a house, and at some point in time, I think it would be worth a work study of talking about the components of affordable housing and what are really that we have control over as a council, than more than just a discussion of buzzwords of affordable housing. Because, I would certainly invite Habitat for Humanity, Kitsap Housing, even a builder if we wanted to bring some in, because you're right, Eric. It's a buzzword. We're all challenged with it. I agree, but I think we need a better understanding about it when we talk about it, of what real input do we have and what are the factors that go into affordable housing. Because I know if you walked up to a builder right now and said, hey, I'd like you to build a $150 house, no disrespect, but they probably laugh at us.
Well, for sure.
That low.
Also, beyond land use, I've learned from Mr. Bond what, affordable housing apartments, like what that means as far as how many set aside, what that qualifies for. Sure. And if you make more, you require more of them set aside, then the other 80%, those are going to cost more. So because their margins are already thin. So being on these committees has really educated me a lot.
That's what I'm saying.
A lot of that, I think, what you just said, as far as if somebody came in for a discussion on that would educate us a lot as well. I agree with you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Sorry for the tangent.
Okay, on to land use.
Yes, we had a discussion. Most of it revolved around discussion of what we had at the work study last week. There wasn't a lot of surprises. I would ask that Nick, when it comes around to you, talking about the ADU. And also, the other thing that came up was about parking enforcement, and I'll ask the mayor in his mayor report to kind of talk about what happened over Memorial Day weekend with that, if you wouldn't mind, Mayor, sharing some of those numbers with that. And that was primarily what happened at land use, was our discussion at work study. Thank you.
Not in my report, but I know that we wrote 21 tickets. 29.
But the why is the interesting part that you shared with me, about where they took, some of the ones that took place in, people were parking in the yellow.
Oh, no, I haven't even talked to Nick about that.
Yeah.
So what I noticed, and it's only really an issue when we have major festivals and that parking starts spilling up the hill. So we're only patrolling to Prospect Street. And what I observed is behavior. Well, I don't think we need to be concerned, because a lot of that is 4-hour parking as we get farther up the hill with the time, but people are parking in front of hydrants, parking in front of driveways, parking on along the yellow stripe, and they shouldn't. So on these larger events like we had for Mosquito Fleet, I think it might be beneficial for our parking enforcement person not to chalk tires and write time tickets a little farther up the hill, probably all the way to even to Givens, but to police that bad behavior that's happening out there that was very apparent on Saturday when downtown fills up and the parking starts spilling up the hill and people don't want to walk any farther than they have to. So they park in front of a fire hydrant, then they shouldn't do that. So anyway, this is an observation. So lodging tax completed their work till this fall. Sewer advisory, you have anything to share?
No, we don't have another meeting in September as we get to budget.
Okay, and coffee with council, I saw somebody's report. It came through our email.
Fred reported on that.
Recently. So on to the mayor's report. I think that's where we're at. Yep. Saturday, boy, Mosquito Fleet Festival. Downtown was packed. It was a great event. Seagull Calling, there wasn't as big a crowd on Sunday. I kind of wish that our ribbon cutting and the Seagull Calling event would have been on Saturday, and that walking tour. We had maybe 10 people come to the ribbon thank you for the cookies. We're still eating those cookies down at downstairs that Jay brought. But great event Saturday. I haven't had a chance to talk to Sam, but I could tell when the people are parking all the way up the hill, there's a lot of people downtown. So I knew there was. If you haven't seen it, drive down Bay Street to the roundabout by KFC. I talked about it many months ago, but we had to wait for good weather, and we applied the SK logo on the roundabout. So as you're heading out of town towards the high school, we put a white circle and the SK on it, and thank you for getting that done, Public Works, before the grad parade, because that was my goal, to make sure that happened before the graduation parade. I had a week, I can't remember, a week ago Friday, I attended Housing Kitsap, the key ceremony. So the Riverstone development, so that you're crossing the Lund Bridge, there's 40 homes that will be built there, the first 10 homes, and that's a self-help program that Housing Kitsap does, very similar to Habitat for Humanity. And a month or so ago, I helped out at a work party there and interacted with some of those homeowners. And it's such a cool program because they're helping build each other's homes. They're building a community. They get to know their neighbors on a level that most of us don't have. And I think it's a really special program. It puts people in houses that likely couldn't afford a house if it wasn't for this subsidized program. So it's pretty cool to be there for the first 10 people that got their keys to their brand new home. And group 2 of 4 is under construction right now. And when I learn more about the key ceremony, I'd love you guys to come join. And they have work parties for just about every weekend up there. If you ever wanted to come up and volunteer, I can get you the information on how to go about that. It's pretty cool. The Old Clifton Intertie project, I had an application into Congresswoman Randall's office. Unfortunately, I got an email over the weekend that our application was denied. They've got other projects that they're going to fund, but positive news, we did get $1 million for the Bay Street reconstruction in the state's budget. So that's positive. And that concludes my report. So, Mr. Ryan, what do you have for a staff report?
Just briefly, last week was, I mentioned it last meeting, was National Public Works Week, and we participated in the Kitsap County Equipment Rodeo with our Public Works crew. I believe every city in Kitsap County, and we also had Jefferson County participate. Several, I'd estimate probably 200 to 300 people were out there. It was a great showing. Our very own John Hubbard took third in the loader contest. So we have bragging rights that we have the third best loader operator in the region. So that's it. Thanks.
Director Ryan, thank you for getting our water park open. We saw the news came out. I did drive by. I did not stop. I was not brave enough. The park was full. So thank you.
That's the crew, and I'll pass that on.
Friday afternoon, I asked about it. It's going to be nice this weekend. We're going to get the splash pad open. Will we open it after Memorial Day? And I said, no, we don't. We need that open this weekend. So fortunately, we scrambled a crew out there, and you know, anything with water irrigation, how often does it not turn on right or work right? And fortunately, everything was in good working order, and they turned it on and they got it going. So hats off to the Public Works crew for dropping what they were doing and getting out there and getting that done, because it was, I think, important to the community that we had it open for the weekend.
They did have it all ready to go inspected, and it was ready to turn the switch. They just were waiting for you to ask. So.
Just waiting for me to find out that they weren't going to do it. So anyway, Mr. Crocker?
Nothing for me tonight, thank you.
Mr. Bond?
Yeah, I wanted to report on the pre-approved ADU program. You've been hearing about this now for probably 8 or 9 months. And I'm happy to report that our building department has approved the first 4 plans, and so they're going to be ready for public use, I think, by next week. I wanted to share my screen here just to remind you the 4 initial units that will be approved. There's in the bottom left, there's a 480 square foot studio ADU. Then there's a 600 square foot 1-bedroom ADU. On the bottom right, the top left is an 800 square foot 1-bedroom or 1-story 2-bedroom ADU, and then there's on the top right an 800 square foot 2-story 2-bedroom ADU, so that's 400 square feet per floor. So these plans are going to be available very shortly. We're working on getting the application forms onto the website and into our permitting system so that people can apply for these online. We've written a document, a very detailed document on how to go about using these plans. It's about a 5-page document of all the steps that you need to take, everything from whether you should get a survey of your property before you build, meeting with contractors, the types of questions you need to ask, and the options available with each of these plans. So some of the plans you can do a hip or a gable roof, and you have to choose a roof pitch. You get to choose different windows and doors and lighting options, and so these things are approved for the structural components, but all of the finished details you have to decide for yourself. So the slide deck that I have here, this is just a slide showing how each of these can be customized and will look different despite being the same dimension. And then the other thing that I'm excited to report on is the 2 additional plans that we're going to be getting. I have concept renderings for those. We're not going to have final plans probably until November, but the 2 units are shown here. We have a flex carriage house, so a garage with an apartment above it, and this is going to be available as either a 2-car garage with a 1-bedroom apartment or a 3-car garage with a 2-bedroom apartment above. And so this is something that if you have an alley load lot, you'll be able to put a carriage house off of the alley and have an apartment upstairs. And it's designed in such a way that the apartment gets one of the garage bays and can access directly to the stairs and go upstairs. And then the other new option is a larger 1-story Rambler that could go in a backyard. So this is 1,000 square feet. We were discussing with the home builders whether they thought a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom would be more popular. We are going with a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath unit, and so that is the other plan that will be finalized. And the nice thing here is that it's being designed with either an entrance on the broad side or on the short side end. So if you have a long skinny lot or a wide lot, you can configure it in either direction and decide where the door goes to work best for your lot. So those will be coming soon. I also wanted to share that we have fee estimates that are going to be available to the public, and we've typed up this fee estimate for the 1-bedroom 600 square foot unit. And so you will be able to pull this permit for $5,700, including the payment of your park and transportation impact fees. School impact fees aren't currently imposed on ADUs, but it will be imposed as of July 1st, so I will update this form, and it's 56 cents per square foot, so not a ton of extra money being added to the list, but this is our estimate for the 600 square foot unit. Smaller units cost a little less, larger units are going to cost a little bit more, but we're hoping that we will be able to issue these permits if you submit a complete site plan that meets our requirements. We're hoping we can turn these around in 2 weeks and get people out the door and building these units. So we're going to do a social media post and a Facebook or a press release as soon as everything is live and ready to go. I'm hoping that's either Friday or Monday at the latest. The other piece of information I wanted to share is that somebody who wants to use these plans, they can do a request to get a copy of the plans, and they will receive a copy that says not approved for construction, because we don't mark it approved until you've actually paid your fees. So you'll have to prove that that you own property or have a site in Kitsap County. There's a one-page form you fill out to request a copy. We'll give you the plans. You can go meet with a contractor, talk to the contractor about how much they think it's going to cost. I can also share that the KBA is going to be providing some cost estimates for all of the units. Their members are taking a look and are going to give us kind of a range of what they think it'll cost to build each of these. So we'll hopefully have that on our website here in the near future as well. But we do want to let people take a look at the plan so that they can make their own site plan and then submit and turn these around pretty quickly. So really exciting to see this nearing completion, and hopefully it will be a success.
Director Bond, thank you, one, for your work with the coalition. I don't know if it's you, someone on your team. I don't think you guys understand the anticipation for this. I don't think I understood the anticipation for this. I sold the RV to somebody over the weekend who wanted to talk to me about that, knowing that I was on city council. When was he going to get his hands on these? He doesn't live in city limits. He lives in the county, so it's a whole other thing. But are you all putting them out simultaneously?
We are. We could probably have them out tomorrow, except that we're waiting for everybody to kind of release this all at once.
Okay.
So, we are doing this simultaneously, and I did present this information. I was on a panel with the realtors, their annual housing breakfast last week, and there's a lot of interest from people that want to do these in rural areas, which is different cup of tea, and the county is not changing the process for rural ADUs. This is only available in the urban areas, Kingston, Silverdale. If you're going to do this in the rural area, they're not going to give you the plans for free because the tribe was raising objections about rural ADUs. So it will be available within the UGAs.
Yikes, I didn't check where he was actually zoned. I just knew he was outside of city limits, so that'll be on him. And then he did have an interesting question that I didn't know how to answer, because there's been some excitement about this. Would they be able to do a little bit of change? Like, so say he wanted to move where a fixture was inside of a bathroom. Is that?
Do that.
There's a list in our how-to guide of what you do get to choose and what you don't get to choose. And so you have to hire an architect to change certain things on the plans, and then it's no longer a basic plan, and you have to pay the full freight for the building permit, and there's no savings. So it's very explicit in what you do get to modify. I think I could probably pull that up for you and read you.
You're all right, just as long as it's all in there and I can tell him just go read it once it comes out. So thank you.
If you watch the land use meeting, it's all presented on there.
Councilor Chang.
Nick, are you guys going to update the fee estimate to include the cost of utilities?
We are not, because our current policy allows you to connect an ADU to your existing meter and your existing sewer. Also, we have part of the city served by Bremerton Water and part of the city is West Sound, and so I don't want to tell people what they're going to pay to those utilities. We're just providing the estimate excluding utilities, and if you connect to your existing meter and your existing sewer stub and you're a Port Orchard customer, there isn't a fee. But if you want that separate meter, so that because you can, under state law, subdivide the ADU onto its own unit lot now, if you were going to take that approach, you would have to then pay for a connection in order to do that.
Okay, the only reason I'm asking is a lot of people may think that there is no maintenance utility fee because they've used their existing connections, water and sewer. So they may not realize that they're going to be charged with another ERU on their utility bill, even though they use the same connections. So I think maybe just a warning that happens. And it's a full ERU, it's not like half, so.
Sure, I can make a note on the user guide to let people know that that's something they should expect.
Right? Mr. Bond, anything else?
That is all from me tonight.
Does the city attorney have any words of wisdom for us this evening?
Thank you.
Chief?
Yeah, thank you. I did send everyone on the council the press release from this morning. Last week was our state conference for the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, and we reaccredited. I know I've spoken to this body about this before. We set this as a goal back when I was hired in 2019. We were accredited in 2021. Reaccrediting is far more difficult. You have to proof a number of items for the previous 4 years, and it's very easy to slip. I sit on the Accreditation Commission for the state, and there are agencies that miss something and fall off. There's about 150 standards. I give all credit and congratulations to the team downstairs. They did a phenomenal job. We got through that without a single audit finding, and I'm just immensely proud of the work that they do. So I just wanted to share that publicly. Thank you.
Good to hear, Chief. And the clerk's office, Ms. Janine, what do you have?
Let's see, so I do have a couple things. So Coffee with the Council is coming up on June 7th, and so far, I think I figured out how Brandy does this. Council members Diener and Rosa Pepe are scheduled, so we do have a slot for one more. So if you guys just want to send me an email, and it'll be next weekend, almost 2 weeks, I believe. So Brandy is out till this, oh.
Just tentatively put me there, and then I'll confirm.
And then Brandy's out till June 16th. She is out on surgery. She is doing well, so you guys are just going to have to put up with me until then. And Tasha, our intern, has actually been fantastic. She's assisting the clerk's office and then helping us out with the meetings, so you'll be seeing a lot of her. And so at I think it was the May 13th council meeting, you guys were invited with the Kitsap Builders Association for a bus tour of construction and like construction sites and projects. So if you guys are interested in attending, let me know. I did send out an email this morning just so we can track for quorum noticing. And the last thing is just as a reminder, so tonight you guys did adopt a resolution which amended the 2025 council meeting schedule. So the June 10th and the 17th are regular business meetings, and the June 24th meeting has been canceled. That's all I have.
Glenn, do you want to? I'll give you some time.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a couple meetings since I've been here. We're required to provide you some updates when we make changes with the mayor's authority granted to him. The first is under an ordinance regarding job descriptions, letting you know we've changed updated the finance director, police services coordinator, and accounting assistant 1 job descriptions. Really just housekeeping, some formatting and some clarity issues on those job descriptions. Secondly, we're required to let you know when we make any changes in city policy. Mayor has authority to amend that, and we did make 2 changes. One had to do with the HRE VIVA program, which is a health reimbursement arrangement. When we updated or renewed the guild contract back in February, we had to update the chart. It says how much the city and the employee contribute to that from the guild's perspective. And we found an error in our bereavement leave policy. We had inadvertently excluded the aunt or uncle that was related to the employee by marriage, not by blood. So we made that correction as well. It's always something. So that's all that I had for tonight.
Does Tasha want to come out and introduce herself? I don't think she's shy. Okay. And then Councilmember Morrissey had a great idea. He would like to know why you came here to the city of Port Orchard and what you hope to learn during your internship.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to meet you. My name is Tasha Sorensen. I've been a person in Kitsap County my whole entire life. I went to South. I graduated in 2014. I've currently been in healthcare for the last 10 years, so I'm just kind of like, what do I want to do instead of being in healthcare right now? So being here in the city of Port Orchard, I would like to just be able to experience everything that you guys are willing to offer, and just add on to my skills of what I can do furthering in my career. Also, in the climate of our political well-being, it's also just like nice that I'm able to be with you guys, to be able to experience what's going on in the city of Port Orchard. Even though I live in Bremerton, it's still like nice to be able to like see what you guys are doing for your community. And then that can affect also Bremerton. Ironically, on Saturday, Greg Wheeler came to my house to do his like re-election marketing, and that was hilarious because I was like, hi, and I am also the city clerk's intern for Port Orchard, so can I just chit chat with you about what you guys do? So that was kind of cool that I didn't have to email him. He just came to my house and he was just kind of like, hey, how's it going? So, but other than that, that's just me. So do you guys have any questions?
Any further questions?
How long are you here? How long's your internship?
Till November. I applied currently for the radiology tech program at Olympic College. So I'm kind of in the prelims if I'm going to get into that program or not. I find out at the end of September, so it's kind of like, do I want to do that or do I want to do this? So it's kind of, everything's up in the air right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Before you leave, we'd like to hear what you learned, right? So
What I've learned?
Yeah. So hopefully you're keeping. Yep, you're keeping a little list. 'cause-
Okay.
November,
Janine's doing a great job. I love it's so funny. But yes, I will create a list for you guys. So
Perfect.
thank you.
Give us a report when you're
Oh,
out,
of course.
before you leave.
Nice Excel spreadsheet for you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything for the good of the order? Councilmember Rosepip, you?
It was a happening week downtown. Two things that came out. One was we were at the park, McCormick Woods Park splash pad, and it was rocking. And parking was at a premium. So thank you, Dennis. I appreciate you getting it up and running. And please let your folks know that there are a lot of people at the splash pad. Second thing, thank you to the council members that stopped by the library and the book sale. Friends of the Library basically almost sold out, and all their money goes to funding children's programs. So thank you for stopping by. They have other sales later in the year, but it just showed how busy they were on Friday and Saturday. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank the attorney's office. I know we normally don't like to think about it, but I was actually going into a KCR meeting on Thursday when I was talking to another board member who just told me, you're going to recuse yourself, aren't you? And I thought, I don't think I need to because I don't personally benefit. But I quickly sent an email and a text to Charlie, who was on vacation. She forwarded it to Jennifer, who gave me a response right away. And based on what they told me, I decided I would recuse myself just for the appearance of propriety. So I want to thank them for that quick thing. It was like right on, on the moment as it was happening. I should have planned before, but I didn't know until I talked to this other board member. So thank you.
Anything else for the good of the order? Go ahead. And I forgot, I've got to do citizen comment period too. Not that there is anybody, but.
Oh, I have to just echo how great the mosquito fleet was. I was down there Saturday. Yeah, it was amazing. So many people. And then Sunday too. And then, of course, the seagull calling contest is always fun. And judges. And then, I just noticed it today. The roundabout with the big, huge SK, which is amazing, super cool. But I didn't even know it was happening. I don't know if any other city councils knew that this was happening. I didn't. So could you tell us how this came about?
Well, I did.
Well, you just said thank you to them, but how?
I did communicate over the winter, and I said when the weather gets better, we're going to put this logo on there.
We had Tim Winter come to ask you about that.
Yeah, it was something that I talked to the superintendent.
I missed that when the nice weather, we're going to put a logo down there. So so it was the superintendent that started it all?
It was my idea, and I went to the superintendent and I said, would you like to see a paw print? And so Tim weighed in on what we would put in there to kind of honor their high school and our students. And I went to Dennis's team and I said, hey, you know, we want to do an SK logo, you know, on the roundabout. And it was in my mayor's report a number of months ago.
Oh, somehow I missed that, sorry. I did, yeah, and all of a sudden, boom, you know, and I know you might have
Just like all of
communicated.
our other, you know, any of the painting that we do out there, the curbs, the markings, we have to wait for good weather. And it has to be dry, the pavement has to be dry in a certain temperature, and we've just gotten into that window here in the last week or so,
Right. Well, I
which
just
enabled
missed
us
that,
to
yeah.
do that.
Was it, who painted that? I mean, it was.
Our crews.
Like all together? It wasn't just like one person? It was like.
Probably a couple people.
Most likely it was 2 to 3 people.
Yeah.
Just watch traffic.
The stencils were fairly large. I saw, I had to weigh in, you know, to make sure they got it lined up right. And they didn't want to put paint down until they knew it was the way we wanted it. So, Councilman, go ahead.
Yeah, I know kind of like I mentioned earlier about the impact fees, you know, we say a lot of things and it's like, do we really mean it or not? I'm gonna piggyback off of what Scott said earlier about the community center and the arts. This last week, obviously I go to Arizona a lot, and you take a corner and I was wondering what they were doing there a couple weeks ago when I was down there, and there's this beautiful artwork that they installed right there in the corner, and I have photos of it. As you cruise around the next corner going to another long stretch, there's another piece of art. And I just really think that we consistently mention that we want to do certain things in town and have an identity and something to build on that we can see when you enter our town, and it's kind of an identity. I think that we do need to stop mentioning that we want this, and as a council, we need to be more adamant about it and really say this is the requirement that we insist in having, because it makes a huge difference. Scott, you know, he traveled and saw some roundabouts, and I know Jay travels a lot and sees a lot of different things, you know, out in that we'd like to see around here. But I think we really need to really put our foot down, work with the mayor, and try and start implementing more art like that, because it is an identity, you know. And if you do one, you can probably piggyback off of that concept throughout town, if it's appealing or whatever. But I think we need to make more of an effort about it. So
I hear you.
That's all.
Well, I'll bring back the. I know it's been a while, and most of you, you know, some of it's on the wall in my office, but the community center in particular, the artwork, the treatments and things that are in there are just spectacular. And I think where we have a tremendous opportunity to do something potentially on the scale of what Paulsbo's done on their new roundabout is that Bethel roundabout is going to be big. It's going to be a double lane roundabout, and I think that's a prime opportunity for us to do something significant at that intersection, because that's probably the other ones that we've got on Bethel are primarily smaller, you know, and kind of those Bethel phase ones. We brought those to you guys and got your guys' feedback. They're largely green, but they do have some artistic elements to them.
I posted a photo of the roundabout today on a couple pages, and I mean, the pages are just full of people saying how awesome it is, you know, and because it is. We're a one high school town, and it's an identity, and it looks fantastic. I'm not sure how long it's going to last. Hopefully, a real long time. But hey, it's a huge effort, and putting it out there and doing it, and I just think that people appreciate that, and
huge.
Yeah, I just think we just need to band together a little bit, you know, and make more of a real firm effort in it.
You know, and it's been a concerted effort too. You know, many communities build things like our Tremont corridor. Gig Harbor did one in their shopping district. Bremerton did their gateway project, and within 5 years they're ripping it all out and putting ugly drain rock down, then they still don't maintain the weeds in it. And I thank you so much for the support and the funding that you guys provide for us to maintain that and keep it the beautiful thing that it is, because it's,
For sure.
I mean, our attorney probably came in on Tremont tonight, didn't you? Yes, where the roundabouts are and all the landscaping. You don't drive it every day, but isn't it beautiful? And we should all be very proud of that.
Yeah,
So,
great.
I was talking to Leslie today. She's on our Rotary, the Port Orchard Rotary, and she did come last year, and she wanted to get some artwork downtown, and so we're going to really talk about that for our Rotary, and then see where it can be and get money that represents our downtown, but it's from the Port Orchard Rotary, but it will be pretty significant, and so I think that's a start right there, just going with that.
anything else for the good of the order? And I'm going to go back to citizen comments.
Yeah, I just want to add that I also think that the Tremont corridor looks wonderful. Circling back to what we could do with some of our roundabouts, if you go to Bend, Oregon, they actually have a roundabout art tour that you can do. And that's just going through different roundabouts around the city and seeing all that they've done. And so I know that there's opportunity for us, but it's not just roundabouts, it's along our pathways and perhaps other corners like Eric has mentioned. There's things we can do.
All right, I'm going to go back to citizen comment. And
Okay.
nobody in the audience. Is there anybody online wishing to address the council? No? All right, with that, I will adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
See ya. Sorry, I thought you looked at that list.